Welcome back to another deep dive. For those of you who love military history, I think you're going to love this one.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a good one.
We're going to be talking about, Roman emperors, specifically Vespasian, Titus, Domitian, Nerva, and Trajan.
A lot of emperors to cover.
Yeah, and we're really going to be focusing on how these emperors, through their military campaigns and conflicts, really helped to shape the Europe that we know today.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at the map of Europe and you see the borders and the countries and the cities, you don't always think about the fact that, a lot of that goes back to decisions that were made, centuries ago by these Roman emperors.
It's almost like they were drawing lines in the sand that we're still living with today, in a way.
Exactly. Their conquests, their fortifications, the very lines they drew on a map had a lasting impact.
Well, let's start with, maybe one of the most well-known father-son duos in Roman history, Vespasian and Titus.
Ah, yes, the Flavian dynasty.
Now, their rise to power coincided with a very turbulent period, the Jewish revolts.
Oh, extremely turbulent and incredibly brutal conflicts, really.
And before this deep dive, I have to admit, I hadn't really grasped the scale of these revolts.
There were
Now, Vespasian and Titus, they weren't all about military conquest.
Oh, no, they were also savvy rulers.
They invested heavily in infrastructure, roads, aqueducts, public buildings.
They understood the importance of infrastructure for maintaining control and projecting power.
I mean, at first I thought, well, that's just standard empire building stuff.
Sure, on the surface it seems that way.
But then I realized there was a deeper strategy at play.
Oh, absolutely. These projects weren't just practical. They were about consolidating power, winning over the populace, showing the strength and sophistication of Rome.
It's almost like they were saying, look at what we can build. Look at how we can improve your lives.
Exactly. It was a way to legitimize their rule and create a sense of unity and pride.
And speaking of iconic Roman structures, we can't forget the Colosseum completed under Titus.
Ah, the Colosseum, a symbol of Rome's grandeur, but also its darker side.
It's a window into their culture, their values, their obsessions.
You can't separate the Colosseum from the spectacles that took place within its walls, the gladiatorial combat, the public executions.
These weren't just forms of entertainment.
They were rituals that reinforced social hierarchies, normalized violence, and projected an image of power.
It's both fascinating and disturbing at the same time.
It's a reminder that history is full of contradictions.
So we have Vespasian and Titus, who, despite their ruthlessness in war, managed to leave behind a legacy of impressive public works.
They solidified Roman control and left their mark on the empire.
But then comes Domitian, Titus's brother, and things take a bit of a darker turn.
Domitian's reign was a turning point, a period of growing tension between the emperor and the Senate.
It's almost like the honeymoon period was over.
The power struggles, the paranoia, the escalating conflicts, all of these factors would have a profound impact on the stability of the empire.
One of the things that surprised me was Domitian's military ambition. He wasn't content to just sit back and enjoy the fruits of his predecessor's labors.
He had a vision of expanding the empire's frontiers.
But things didn't exactly go according to plan, did they?
No, his campaigns in Dacia, modern-day Romania, were a major setback.
Not only did he fail to conquer Dacia, but he was forced to pay ransoms to get his captured soldiers back.
It was a humiliating defeat for Rome, a blow to their prestige.
And to add insult to injury, he held a triumphal procession upon his return.
The optics were everything in Roman politics. He needed to maintain a facade of invincibility, even in the face of defeat.
It seems like a classic case of spin trying to control the narrative.
Absolutely. It highlights the importance of perception in shaping history.
And then there's the whole episode with the Vestal Virgins.
A chilling example of Domitian's paranoia and cruelty.
I mean, accusing these revered priestesses of adultery and then punishing them so severely.
It was a blatant power grab, a way to eliminate potential rivals and instill fear.
It really shows the precariousness of life under an absolute ruler.
Anyone could become a target if they were perceived as a threat.
And eventually all that paranoia and ruthlessness caught up with him.
It's a fitting end to a tumultuous reign.
Assassinated in his own bedroom.
A dramatic end to a dramatic life.
Domitian's assassination really exposed the fragility of the Roman Empire.
It showed that even the most powerful emperor was vulnerable to plots and conspiracies.
And it created a power vacuum that would have a profound impact on the future of Rome.
A moment of uncertainty that would usher in a new era.
And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
We'll explore the reigns of Nerva and Trajan and see how they navigated this new landscape.
So stay tuned for more fascinating Roman history.
We'll delve into their military campaigns, their political maneuvering, and their lasting impact on Europe.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the spirit of history alive.
We'll see you back here soon for part 2. Well, Domitian's assassination left the empire in a very precarious position.
Yeah, you can imagine the Senate scrambling to find a suitable successor, someone who could steady the ship.
And they settled on Nerva, an older, more experienced senator.
Now, Nerva, I have to admit before this deep dive, he wasn't really on my radar.
Yeah, he tends to get overshadowed by those bigger personalities.
Exactly. But in preparing for this episode, I realized just how crucial his role was.
Oh, absolutely. A pivotal figure in this transition of power.
He inherited an empire on the brink of chaos.
The aftershocks of Domitian's reign, the tensions, the paranoia, it all had to be addressed.
And he had to tread carefully.
Absolutely. He needed to appease the Senate, reassure the people, and above all, secure the loyalty of the military.
Especially the Praetorian Guard.
Ah, yes. Those Praetorian Guards, always a wild card.
That incident where they basically forced Nerva to meet their demands, it's a stark reminder of the power they wielded.
They could make or break an emperor.
So how did Nerva navigate this minefield? How did he manage to bring stability back to the empire?
Well, he was a shrewd politician. He knew how to play the game.
He had to balance strength with diplomacy.
Exactly. And one of his most brilliant moves was adopting Trajan as his heir.
Trajan. Now, there's an emperor who really captures the imagination.
A true legend.
I've always been fascinated by his military achievements, his conquest of Dacia.
Expanding the empire to its greatest extent.
But what strikes me now is his background. The fact that he was the first Roman emperor born outside of Italy.
A remarkable feat shattering centuries of tradition.
It makes you wonder, did he face any resistance from the Roman elite?
Oh, I'm sure there were those who questioned his legitimacy.
Did his provincial background influence his policies, his approach to governing this vast empire?
It's hard to say for certain, but there's no doubt that he had to work harder to prove himself.
He had to navigate the complexities of Roman politics.
And he did it masterfully. He cultivated relationships with key senators. He presented himself as a defender of Roman traditions, even as he broke down barriers.
It's almost like he was saying, look, I may not have been born in Rome, but I embody Roman values.
Precisely. He was a master of blending tradition with innovation.
He respected the past, but he wasn't afraid to embrace change.
And that made him a truly effective leader.
And speaking of effective leadership, let's talk about his Dacian campaigns.
Ah, the Dacian Wars, a defining moment in Trajan's reign.
Domitian tried and failed to conquer Dacia, but Trajan succeeded.
He understood the strategic importance of securing Rome's northern frontier.
And he was determined to eliminate the threat posed by the Dacians.
And he did it decisively. His victories were crushing, and they had a lasting impact on the region.
I mean, modern-day Romania takes its name from the Roman Empire.
A testament to Trajan's success in integrating Dacia into the Roman world.
And of course, to commemorate those victories, he had the Trajan column built.
One of the most iconic monuments of ancient Rome.
It's amazing to think that it's still standing today, almost 2,000 years later.
A tangible link to Trajan's reign.
It's more than just a monument to military victory, though.
It's a work of art, a propaganda tool, a historical record.
The intricate carvings depicting scenes from the Dacian Wars, it's like a visual narrative of the conflict.
They provide incredible insights into Roman military tactics equipment, even the daily life of soldiers.
You could spend hours studying those carvings and still discover new details.
It's a treasure trove of information.
But Trajan's legacy extends far beyond military conquests and impressive monuments.
He was a builder, a reformer, and administrator.
His reign is often seen as a golden age of Roman power.
A period of stability, prosperity, and expansion.
He left behind a strong and well-organized empire.
One that would continue to thrive for generations to come.
But even at the height of his power, Trajan wasn't content to rest on his laurels.
He always had his eye on the horizon.
His attention now turned eastward to the Parthian Empire, Rome's longtime rival.
The Parthians, a formidable foe who had long contested Roman dominance in the east.
It's almost like a clash of titans. Two great empires vying for control of the ancient world.
A conflict that would have far-reaching consequences. Trajan's ambition, is really something else. He had his sights set on the Parthian Empire.
This was Rome's long-standing rival in the east, right?
Exactly, a powerful empire that had challenged Roman dominance for centuries.
I imagine this conflict must have been pretty epic.
Oh, absolutely. It was a clash of titans, two great empires with very different military traditions and strategies.
Well, what can you tell us about the Parthians?
The Parthians were renowned for their cavalry, especially their mounted archers.
I've heard about their famous Parthian shot.
Ah, yes, where they'd pretend to retreat and then fire arrows backward at their pursuers. A very effective tactic.
It must have been pretty unnerving for the Romans.
Yeah, it was a tactic that had confounded many a Roman general.
And logistically speaking, campaigning in such a vast and unfamiliar territory must have been a nightmare.
Oh, absolutely. It was a huge undertaking. It required incredible planning and resources.
I mean, we're talking about thousands of miles from Rome, right?
Exactly. And yet the Romans managed to build roads, bridges, fortifications across these vast distances.
It's really a testament to their logistical capabilities.
Absolutely. It shows their ability to project power far beyond their traditional borders.
And initially, it seemed like Trajan was on the verge of achieving something truly remarkable.
He was winning victories, capturing cities, pushing deeper into Parthian territory.
He even captured their capital, Ctesiphon, right?
That's right. And he even reached the Persian Gulf, a feat no Roman emperor had accomplished before.
So it seemed like he was well on his way to conquering the Parthian Empire.
Well, it certainly seemed that way at first, but the Parthians were a resilient foe.
They weren't going to go down without a fight.
Exactly. They knew how to exploit their home turf.
So what happened?
Well, the Parthians were masters of guerrilla warfare. They would harass Roman supply lines, launch surprise attacks.
They made it very difficult for Trajan to maintain his momentum.
Exactly. And to make matters worse,
Oh no, what happened?
revolts started breaking out within Roman territory.
Oh, I see. So Trajan had to divert troops from the Eastern Front to deal with these uprisings.
That's right. And that really stretched Roman forces thin.
It sounds like a classic case of overreach.
Yeah, you could say that Trajan's ambition may have exceeded Rome's capacity at that time.
So despite his early victories, Trajan was ultimately unable to conquer the Parthian Empire.
It was a setback, but it doesn't diminish his achievements.
I mean, his reign is still considered a golden age of Roman power.
Absolutely. And his eastern campaigns demonstrated Rome's incredible military might, even if they didn't achieve their ultimate objective.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the reigns of Vespasian, Titus, Domitian, Nerva, and Trajan,
What stands out to you?
well, I'm struck by how these emperors, through their actions, their decisions, their conflicts, really shaped the course of European history.
I mean, we can still see their legacy in the maps, the cities, the cultures of modern Europe.
It's a reminder that the past is never truly past.
It's always with us, shaping our present and our future.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring these pivotal figures in Roman history.
I agree. It's always amazing to delve into these stories and see how they connect to the broader sweep of history.
Well, that brings us to the end of another deep dive.
I hope you enjoyed it.
And as always, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the spirit of history alive.